Hi, this is Dovid Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And whether you watch with our friends over at Torah Anytime, or wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts, we are always happy to have you along. And as always, do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Apparently, this is supposed to help more people get to see the show. I don't know how this works, but and I do give a thank you to those of you who I know make comments just to be able to make comments, as opposed to I'm still getting the occasional nasty comment from somebody who's not part of our community watching the Tuvia Singer video. Every now and then get another nasty comment from somebody saying, why does he have to talk so much? And we have a sponsor for this episode. Hi, I have been waiting so long to do this. 3 exclamation marks. Goodness gracious. I am so happy that I can be a part of your life. I've always wanted to donate, and now I finally can. Your podcasts bring happiness to my life when I'm going through a difficult time. I would tell everyone that one of the only things that make me smile was this podcast. Don't stop, as you are changing my life and many others. May God bless you and the work that you do. Best wishes, RG. Wow. Thank you so much. I tell you, I am shocked always when I hear from people how much chizuk people get from this podcast, because, as I've said many times, that's the reason I started it. I used to give a shir. I'm repeating myself now, but which is going to bring me to the second thing that always shocks me. But I used to give a shir every other Motzi Shabbos here in Har Nof, and things were getting crazy at one point, and I wanted to stop giving it. And Reb Moshe Shapiro said to me, "If you're doing anything that gives chizuk to people today, you're mechuyev to do it, because people need chizuk." And I hear people who tell me how much chizuk they get from this show, and I'm deeply moved that I can be a part of someone's life, even if it's nothing more than just to put a smile on someone's face. And I just noticed a comment somebody sent me. They said, on one of my podcasts, it says, "It took you 40 minutes to get to your point. That's why I love watching this show." And I read the first part. I said, uh-oh, here we go. Why is he talking so much? Took you 40 minutes to get to your part. That's what I love about this show. Because I'm starting to think that there's an epidemic of ADD out there, and I'm not the only one. Anyway, that is one thing that I always find surprising. And thank you so much, because it's only through the help of people like yourself that we're able to do this. And, we're basically covering expenses, and thank you so much. So that is point number 1. Point number 2 is I was going to begin the podcast by saying, as I was saying, and then just start the podcast. That would have been an inside joke for at least a half a dozen people that I've met. What do I mean? There are half a dozen people I've met, and there must be more of them out there because I've only met a half a dozen of them, who have apparently listened to everything I have ever said that is available and have said it to memory. I just had a guy at my house this past Shabbos. I could not start a line or a story or a joke, and he finished it. It was unbelievable. And I remember at one point we were discussing Shidduchim or something like that, and he says, "Well, why do people this?" And I said, "Well, my favorite line," and I look at him. And he's like, everybody does what everybody does because that's what everybody does. I said, right. It has done everything. And it is, I have to tell you how scary this is. You don't realize this, because my father had maybe like 6 or 7 jokes, and he would tell them over and over again. But could you imagine, as soon as he starts it and somebody just finishes it for him? No, I would never do that, That's why I have most of my teeth. But one of my father's pet expressions was, "I'll wrap you in the mouth." Anyway, that's how he used to translate Haka as Shinav in the Haggadah. "I'll wrap him in the mouth." But it's amazing. So the reason I say that is because So it was a little inside joke. I was going to say, as I was saying, and I was just going to start, because I'm going to continue something that I was doing last year in the weeks before Pesach. So only one of the real crazies would know what I'm talking about at this point. So for the rest of us who are more casual listeners or people like me whose memory has been shot. That's why people say, why do you laugh at your own jokes? You know, I've heard them before. It goes, because I don't remember them. I'm making them up all over again. To you, they sound new, but to me, I've never heard it before. Anyway, so I was sharing an idea that I developed once upon a time. I'll tell you actually where I did it. I did it in Gatesways when I was there for Pesach. And you try to find a theme to tie all of your shiurim together. At least that's what I like to try to do, you know. Afterwards, my son told me I was being too clever by half and that I should have just taken my best shiurim and just done them over and over again, you know. So I don't know if he wants me to mention this or not, but there's somebody who's very brilliant who used to come to these conventions as well, and he would basically say the same shiurim every year, you know. So when they sent out the email, they said, please send in, you know, the list of shiurim you're going to be giving, and note to so and so, not just different titles. He would just keep giving the same shiurim and give different titles. So I Baruch Hashem, I have enough material. Again, not the people who have listened to years and years of everything I've ever said. You know, it's hard for me to not repeat myself. But so I came up with an approach. I'll tell you what it is for those of you who remember it. Those of you out there will already be nodding along saying, yeah, I remember from last year. But for the dilettantes, the more casual watchers, let me bring you up to speed. There's a Torah that says that there's an Atbash by Pesach. Atbash is, of course, where you take Aleph and you substitute it with Tuf. You take Beis and you substitute it with Shin, hence Atbash. And Gimel is Reish, and Dalet is Kuf. Yeah, you get the idea. And the idea is to, you can use the Aleph of Pesach to figure out the Tuf. What does that mean? That means the Aleph of Pesach, the day that the first day of Pesach will come out, will correspond to Tisha B'Av. So in this year, as we know, since the first Seder is going to be Saturday night, you know Tisha B'Av is going to come out on Saturday night. The second night will correspond to Shin, which is Shavuos, which means you know that Shavuos is going to start on Sunday night. The Gimel is Reish for Rosh Hashanah, which means you know that Rosh Hashanah is going to be Tuesday night. And the Tzadi the Kuf is Kriyas HaTorah. It's Simchas Torah of Chutz La'aretz. Now that's obvious because here in Eretz Yisrael, where we only have Shmini Atzeres, and our Shmini Atzeres is Simchas Torah, it's going to come out the same day as Rosh Hashanah. So the day that'll come after that will be Simchas Torah of Chutz La'aretz. That's the Kuf. And the Tzadi is going to be Yom Kippur, Tzom Kippur. And then the Pei is going to be Purim of the year before. So since you know that Pesach, the sixth day of Pesach, is coming out on Friday. So because of that, you know that Purim this past year was on Friday. That goes backwards, obviously, because Purim is always been a Hapachu. So I said what I wanted to do, and this was my own idea, is that the events that took place in Pesach should correspond to what takes place on those particular days that it alludes to. So we spoke last year, we had one time, the first shir on this, we discussed the relationship between Pesach and Tisha B'Av. And then we discussed the relationship between the first day of Chol HaMoed, or the second day Yontif, for those of you in America, and Shavuos, why Shavuos is the second day of Pesach. Obviously, that's when you start counting Sfiras HaOmer, which concludes with Shavuos. Yeah. And we talked about why the third day would be Rosh Hashanah. And then we skipped to the end and we explained how the day before Kriyas Yam Suf would correspond to Purim. What we did not deal with is Simchas Torah, and we did not deal with Simchas Torah and with Yom Kippur. So what we're going to do now with these next two shiurim, which will take us right up until Pesach, is to hopefully try to figure out a connection between those days and the 2 days that it corresponds to. That's our goal. That's what we're going to set out to do. And hopefully this will be something that will add to your days of Pesach. So the 4th day of Pesach corresponds to Simchas Torah of Chutz La'aretz. Now, Shmini Atzeres has within it a special quality. And that's why we're not going to Shmini Atzeres. We're going to Simchas Torah, which is the day after Shmini Atzeres, in Chutz La'aretz, where they make a separate day out of Simchas Torah, which in general I've always thought was an interesting thing. You know, I've talked about this, I think, in the past, and that is that one of the advantages of being in Eretz Yisrael is you really get a feel for how the Torah pictured what a yontif is supposed to be. I have heard from women in Chutz La'aretz more than once. So I like 2 starim, because after all of the cleaning and the cooking and the setting up and everything, I'm exhausted. So I basically sleep through the first Seder, but the second Seder I can really be awake for and really enjoy. Now, this is obviously a terrible mistake, because the first Seder, even in Chutz La'aretz, is the Araisa. The second one is the Rabbanon, only because we weren't sure. There was a time when we weren't sure of when the date came out, but now we are sure. So we know that the first night is definitely the Araisa from the Torah, and the second one is only with the Rabbanon, because of Minhag Avosenu V'Yadeinu, we kept the custom going. So you're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, right? You're, instead of focusing on the D'Oraisa, you're letting that slip away. Whereas here in Eretz Yisrael, you prepare yourself for the Seder. You come in. There is only one Seder. You put everything you have into that Seder. And then when you're done, right, you finish usually late at night. Here in Eretz Yisrael, I assume in America as well, there is a minhag that they start Shachris later on Pesach morning than they usually do, because they know everybody was up all night with their Seder. So we do it a little faster, and they have the davening. I mean, the davening is not faster; it's very long. There's a lot of things on Pesach morning, but Tfilas Tal, yeah, among other things. And so we go through the whole davening, yeah, and then you come back and you have your Suda, you have your day meal, probably get in a nap, and then Mincha Ma'ariv, and it's over. And that's it. You're condensed into it. There is a problem in America when it comes to, in my opinion, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. I say America because I don't know what goes on in Simchas Torah in the other countries. I haven't really been for Simchas Torah to any other countries. But the problem is that Simchas Torah has turned into a version of Purim, with a lot of drinking and shtiklach and tying the strings of the talis together, which of course passels the talis, so the person is wearing a puzzle talis, and the Kahanim take off their shoes to duchen. People steal their shoes or tie their shoes together, or kinds of shtick like this. That's not what Simchas Torah is supposed to be. So here in Eretz Yisrael, so what do they do in America? They basically, Shmini Atzeres, they get rid of all of the holy stuff. They have Yisker, they have Tfilas Geshem, they have all that on Shmini Atzeres. They get that out of the way. And then Simchas Torah, they can just party. Here, we go to shul, we have Shachris with Birkas Kahanim, because we do Shachris and Musaf. And then we have the Hakafas, then we have Kriyas HaTorah, then we have Yisker, then we have Musaf with Tfilas Geshem. All right? Then we have our Suda, and then that's it, it's over. And the whole holiday season ends like that. So the day, the Hakafis and the dancing is Simchas HaTorah. It's a celebration of the Torah, and not just drunken revelry, which is what Simchas Torah has turned into in some places. When you see people getting sick drunk on Simchas Torah, like you see people do on Purim, I don't think it makes any more sense to do it on Purim than it does on the Simchas Torah. But okay, that's just one of my rants that you should all be familiar with at this point. Anyway, but why does the fourth day correspond to Simchas Torah itself? So let's go over the historical events, and that's what we did last year as we were going over it. The first day is, of course, Yetzias Mitzrayim. They leave Egypt, and they have their Seder at night. They come out during the day, and they get whisked away. Yeah. The second day, they set into motion the plan to full Paro. The third day, the guards who were sent along with them told them to go back to Egypt, and we beat them up, and they ran back to Paro to say, do you know these guys are not coming back? And it took them 3 days to get there. And they told Paro on the sixth day, and on the sixth day, he came rushing. In one day, he did a 3-day journey, and he comes at the head of his army. And that night of the seventh, that's when the two camps were facing off against each other, and that's when we have Kriyas Yamsuf and everything else on the seventh day. So we talked about the sixth day, obviously, the pachad that the Jews had when, Paro comes and they see him and they don't know what's going to happen, and the terror that they felt, and then it all turns around. So that's the idea of Purim. And we spoke about Rosh Hashanah being a new beginning. But what happened on the fourth day and fifth day? So these are basically the days where we're waiting to see what happens. Yeah, the guards went back. We gave Paro the impression that we were lost in the desert. We set the trap for him, and now we're waiting it off. And we haven't seen him yet. Yeah. So perhaps one way we can understand it is by looking at the Kriyas HaTorah. Now, when my son was young, and he's very smart, he would come with me to shul, and Chol Hamoed would be davening, and each day during Sukkot, he'd say, "Is it a long kriya?" I said, "Oh, it's an enormous kriya. It's an enormous kriya, right?" It's a joke. All they do is they do the korban of that day. So on the fourth day, it says this is the korban that they brought on the fourth day. On the fifth day, they just read it 4 times. There's no maftir, there's no this. It's just the same thing over and over again. Pesach is not like that. Every single day there's a different kriya, and then you take out another Sefer Torah to do the maftir of the korban. But by Sukkot, it's just the korban. There's nothing else that we're reading to describe the Sukkot experience. But by Pesach, every day we're reading a different version of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yeah? And one day we're doing Pesach Sheni, and one day we're doing Yetzias Mitzrayim itself, and we have different parts of the lading. Now, on the fourth day and the fifth day, so the Kriyas Torah on the fourth day is from Parshas Mishpatim, and on the fifth day is from Parshas Kisisa. What is the logic of taking from Mishpatim and Kisisa? Well, there's only one parsha that mentions all of the Moedim, and that is Parshas Emor. When we get there in the Parsha in 5, we will discuss that. But it's called the Parshas of Moedim. That's where you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Shavuos, Sfiras HaOmer, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres. Everything is listed there. But there's 3 other places where we mention the Shalosh Regalim: Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. It's in Parshas Mishpatim, it's in Parshas Kisisa, and it's in Parshas Re'eh. So here we do the Shalosh Regalim from Mishpatim, and there we do the Shalosh Regalim from Parshas Kisisa. Now we'll talk about why I believe we read the story of the Shalosh Regalim in Kisisa on the 5th day, which corresponds to Yom Kippur. If you think about it, you'll see it's a no-brainer. But the idea of Parshas Mishpatim corresponding to Kriyas HaTorah, let's understand what that means. So there is no holiday called Simchas Torah. The only holiday that exists in the Torah is Shmini Atzeres. And just like Shmini Shel Pesach is just Shvi Shel Pesach again, and just like the first day of Sukkot and the second day of Sukkot in Chutz La'aretz is just the first day of Sukkot again, and so to the first day of Pesach and the second day of Pesach is just the first day of Pesach again, and so too by Shavuos. Here we give it 2 different names. There's Shmini Atzeres, and instead of just saying Shmini Atzeres again, we call it Simchas Torah. And interestingly enough, as I pointed out, we sort of make a division between the two. There is no holiday of Simchas Torah. And that's why in the good old days, when prophets walked the world, and we just had the Torah Shebiksav and the Torah Shebal Peh that people were following. Shmini Atzeres was, you got up in the morning, came in Yontif, and you of course lit your neiros. You went to shul, you davened, you had your suda, you went to sleep. You got up in the morning, you went to shul, and you had the davening, whatever the davening would be. You'd say Tefillas Geshem. I don't know if there was a minute yet to say Yizkor, but you'd say Yizkor. And you'd go home, you have your Suda, take a nap, and that was it. Yontif was over. There was nothing else to it. The Gaonim were the ones who decided to make it into Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah is the following. There were 2 minhagim, the Gemara says, of how they used to finish the Torah. There are those who would have a 3-year cycle. So they would not finish the Torah until 3 years went by. Obviously, all the parshios were smaller. And there were those who finished it once a year, and eventually that became the minhag. So the question was when to start it and when to finish it. Because theoretically, you could start the Torah anytime you wanted and finish it anytime you wanted. So they chose to start the first parsha Bereshis right after all the Yomim Tovim, right after Shmini Atzeres, in a year where Shmini Atzeres comes out on Thursday, and in Chutz La'aretz they have Simchas Torah on Friday. So then the next day is already Shabbos Bereshis. You don't have a lot of time to be Mar B'Sedra. It goes through pretty quickly. when Shmini Atzeres comes out on Shabbos, so then you have a whole week to do it. But otherwise, it's very condensed. So you have that day was chosen since we start it on the Shabbos right after Simchas Torah or Shmini Atzeres. We finish it. Now, the truth of the matter is, between me and you, we of course finish it during the Aseret Mei Tshuva. That's when we do everything except for the last parsha, and we save the last parsha to read on Shmini Atzeres / Simchas Torah, and then we finish the Torah. And so we make a siyum on the Torah, a celebration of learning Torah. And that's what Simchas Torah is supposed to be, a celebration of learning Torah, of the siyum. Now, there are people, even though it is a mitzvah to be marabas sedra and to finish the entire Torah, and somebody told me that whenever you would go to Rashach to visit during Sukkot, you're supposed to go to your Rebbe's house or to Gedolim's houses on Chol Hamoed. He would always remind people, remember, you have to finish Zayis HaBracha, the Shnai Mikra Ve'echa Targum, before Shmini Atzeres. You see people sometimes on Shmini Atzeres cramming. It's too late. It ends on Shmini Atzeres. You have to finish it beforehand. Yeah. Now, even though it is a mitzvah, there are people who are not careful. They are not careful to do Shnai Mikra Ve'echa Targum. And it is definitely a mitzvah, and you should make an effort. And if you're way behind, you can do tashlumim. There's a shita that says that you can go all the way up until Shmini Atzeres to make up parshios that you missed, etc. But it's an important thing. So when you finish the Torah, you're making a siyum, like you would on finishing any other sefer. And a siyum is a celebration of the Torah. Now, on the subject of siyumim, I am now in my third cycle of Daf Yomi, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons you make a siyum is to encourage other people to learn. When they come to a big party and they say, wow, it's a big party because it finished the Masechta and everyone's talking about how wonderful it is, etc., I also want to make a siyum. And I see people who are trying to finish Masechtas, to learn an entire Masechta just so they can make a siyum. The siyum is the motivation. I'm not talking about the people who do the quickie siyumim during the 9 days to be able to eat meat. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that they see that you have a really chosh of a siyum and what a celebration it is, and they really want to be a part of it. So when you imagine when they started Daf Yomi and you had a siyum hashas, so great people would come and speak. So I guess it was 3 cycles ago, they were making a bunch of siyumim here in Yerushalayim, and they invited me to come and speak. And I said, I don't feel comfortable speaking. I don't learn Daf Yomi. And they said, nobody does. None of the speakers do. He says, but, don't let that bother you. Right? Very friend, apparently once at Siyum Hashas, and I didn't check this out because I'm not Pesach Kron, who does speak at the Siyum Hashas. Yeah. But someone told me this is what happened, and it's good enough for me, is that he said, when your friend makes a simcha, you come along. So I'm here to share the simcha of all the people who are learning Daf Yomi. And I said, I don't feel comfortable. But I saw all the different siyumim that were taking place, and I said, nope, maybe there's something to this. And I sat down. I basically had a chavrusa. The chavrusa morphed into a chabura, and then eventually the person I was learning with became the Rosh Chabura, and he started giving it as a shir. And eventually he got a real job, and so I took it over. And so now I'm in my 3rd cycle. And I really am doing this. I got inspired because I saw all the siyumim. You see that inspires people. But even people who did not finish the Masechta come to the Siyum because it's a celebration of Torah. And that's what Simchas Torah is supposed to be. We took Shmini Atzeres because, and I've spoken about this in the past, the number 8 always represents Torah. And that's why on Shavuos we count 7 times. 7 days, 7 times. And then we come to Shavuos. 50 is just another way of saying 8. Shmini Atzeres, we have 7 days of Sukkot, and then the 8th day, there are no mitzvos because it represents Torah. Just like counting Nisan as the first month, Mar Cheshvan is the 8th month, and there are no holidays in it. Because whenever you go to 8, you are out of this world. This world was created in 7 days. 7 is the number that represents this world. 8 is the number that represents out of this world. And that is Torah. It is out of this world. And that's why when Avraham Avinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I saw in the stars that I'm not going to have any children, Hashem said, then I will lift you up above the stars because you are going to be the people of Torah and you are not limited by this world. And that's why the Maharal says that that story takes place in Lech Lecha. At the beginning, Avraham is 75, which is just another way of saying 7.5. And it ends with the Bris Milah on the 8th day. And the whole parasha is the story of the Jewish people going from the 7 to the 8, where we move outside of time. And that's the power, obviously, of the Shmini Atzeres. It's a day of Torah. So the Gaonim chose to make that day the siyum for the completion of Torah. Yeah? And that's what Simchas Torah is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a celebration. Celebration of learning Torah. There's a story with the Vilna Gaon where one Simchas Torah there was this Amaretz who was dancing with a tremendous amount of fervor. He was a real old-time Amaretz. He didn't know anything. The Vilna Gaon says, why are you dancing for the Torah? You don't know the Torah. You don't learn the Torah. He says, I'm dancing because there's a Vilna Gaon who knows the Torah. So I'm being mishtatef in that simcha of Torah. You know me. I never say anything controversial. But I would like to raise a point that I always find interesting. Yeah. The Gemara says if you want to sharpen your mind, learn the Gemaras in Nashim and Nezikin. It teaches you Svara, etc. The Gemara doesn't say that about Kodshim, because I may have told this story beforehand. Those of you out there will let me know, because you know everything I've ever said. Rabbi Meiselman, who's the Rashiv of Torah's Moshe and a real brisker. So it was Parshas Vayikra. So I have a bunch of questions on Parshas Vayikra. I thought, he learns Kodshim as a brisker, I said, why is it by a bird you slit the back of the neck instead of the front of the neck? Right? Because if you do that by a regular chicken, it'll be treif. It's only by a korban. Because I don't know. I said, why is there a shear when it comes to a mincha of a kometz, which is 3 fingers? Well, what kind of shear is that? He goes, I don't know. I said, why is it that when you go to the Beis Hamikdash and you want to bring a korban mincha, they give you a little menu. And they say, well, what would you like? We have a mincha b'seilis, we have a mincha b'tanor, mincha machvas. What kind would you like? You don't eat it anyway. Why would you choose one mincha over another? He goes, I don't know. I said, but you're a brisker. He says, I'll tell you how, I'll tell you where, I'll tell you when. Don't ever ask why. We don't deal with whys. And that's why when you learn Kodshim, you find a lot of it is Gzeres HaKosov. Gzeres HaKosov. Yeah. It's a pasuk. Learn it from a pasuk. And you'll see sometimes they say, okay, I have a pasuk that tells me Shlomim. How do I know a chatas? Okay, if a pasuk doesn't make chatas, how do I know an ola? I need a separate pasuk, a special drasha for each thing over there, because your svaras aren't going to help you. Everything is exeris hakosov. So I mentioned that because Chaim Briska, of course, was the one who introduced focusing on Kodshim as the Ikar Limud, and that became the Mahalach in Brisk. And now there are a whole bunch of, different Briska yeshivas that follow this basic Mahalach, and a lot of boys go there. And sometimes I'll have them at my Shabbos table, and I'll say, "So you get a geschmack at a Kodshim?" And they're like, yeah. I said, yeah, more so than Nashim and Nezikin. It's Svara and arguing that, So it takes a little prodding on my part, but basically you say, this is where all the good guys are going. So it's not that they chose this Derech Halimud because they thought this was going to be the best to develop them in their learning. It's because they want to be with the good guys, and all the guys are in one of the Briska satellite yeshivas. But the Ikar Limud is the Gemara says, if you want to strengthen yourself, is Nashim Nezikin, right? We spoke about this when we talked about the mitzvahs that were given at Mora, and one of them was Dinin, because when you sit and you learn these things, it sharpens your mind and gives you an insight into the brilliance of Torah. We mentioned that Shabbos gives you the breadth of Torah because there are so many halachas, and Paraduma gives you the secrets of Torah. But Nezikin teaches you how to think. When a kid starts off and they start learning the Baba, everybody can play. Because what do you think? What do you think the answer is? And you can give a svara. I think it's like this. I think it's like that. You can't do that in Kodshim. Now, I think the Korban Ola should be, because there's a cause of. Torah says so, yeah. I don't care what you think. Your opinion means nothing, yeah? So Dinim helps you to develop the brilliance of Torah. I'm sure we talked about this. Yeah. There are two stories of Matan Torah. There's the story of Matan Torah in Yisro, and then at the very end of Mishpatim, there's another story of Matan Torah. You need both of them to work together to get the full story. Yeah. But the power, right, of the first parasha of Yisro is the revelation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to Klal Yisrael, the Sinai experience. Then you come to Parshas Mishpatim. Mitzvah, 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 mitzvah. And it's more or less most of the foundations of Noshim and Nezikin, not marriage and Yibum per se, but there's plenty of other things, dinim of Noshim, and certainly Nezikin. All the foundations of Nezikin, of the Babas, etc., Sanhedrin, Makos, is in there. There's so much of the foundation of it that's right in that parasha. Because you have the wow experience of Matan Torah. It's a wow. But as they say, the devil's in the details. As we say it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the details. It's the details that allows us to get there. When I speak to a new group, my opening shir that I usually give is why be Jewish, and I explain the reason why we're in this world based on the Mesilas Yesharim. My second one that I usually give is why do mitzvos, which explains how we do it, how we get there. It's very nice to speak about spirituality, but how do you do it? How do you get there? There are rules and regulations. If you want to be able to appreciate beautiful music, and you say, wow, I'd like to make that music, no problem. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Practice your chords, practice your scales, go over it, and practice and practice. That's an old joke. Somebody in New York meets someone, says, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? Guy says, practice. Yeah. So you want to be a great musician. It takes a lot of effort and details. You want to live a truly spiritual life, to be standing at Har Sinai and have that prophetic vision. You got to follow a lot of mitzvahs. There's a lot of details, a lot of learning Torah, and a lot of focus that goes into it. So that's the celebration of Torah, is the learning of Torah and the brilliance of the Torah. That's perhaps why the laning for the fourth day, which corresponds to Simchas Torah, is the laning in Mishpatim of the Shalosh Regalim, where we read about mitzvahs, and then the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, are part of that in the context of the learning that goes into it and the different rules that apply to it. Because it's the details and the rules. Then we can go back to Har Sinai and finish the story and talk about how to have that expression of Har Sinai. But we put different details of the Har Sinai story in Mishpatim. That's where we make the bris. That's where Malach has to split the dam in half, because every detail has to be perfect. Everything has to be exact. It's not just inspiration. So if you want to be able to dance on Simchas Torah and to celebrate the Torah, you have to learn it. People who don't do their Shnai Mikra Ve'echer Targum, they're sharing somebody else's celebration, but they're not experiencing it themselves. So they come out of Mitzrayim and they have the first day, which is Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is a wow. The second day, they get down to work. The third day, they have the dramatic encounter with the guards and they leave. And now they're waiting to see what's going to happen. And they understand it's on me. And so we have to get down to the details. And the more that we invest in it and the more that we work at it, then the more we can begin to understand what it is that we're supposed to be, the people of Torah. And we're supposed to be making ourselves into that person of Torah. And that's perhaps why the fourth day of Pesach corresponds to Simchas Torah. This is all my own flights of fancy. If you find any meaning in it, then I'm thrilled to pieces. If you say, Orlofsky's just darshaning, what's he talking about? Why does he speak so much? Why doesn't he let the guest speak? Because I don't have a guest today, okay? It's just me. I'm just talking. And that's it. All right? Okay. And that, of course, brings us to the question and answer portion of our program. First question is by Chavi. Would you be able to give one small thing to focus on in each bracha of Shmoneh Esreh for me to write down in my siddur? This is an interesting question. Those of you who are signed up for my online tefillah shir, so you know we started with Shmoneh Esreh. And it took us a very long time. We went through all of Shmoneh Esreh, mamish, every phrase that we could, and to get deeper understanding into it, and to try to get focus on it. When I was all done, somebody in the shir pointed out and said, I feel like I've lost the forest for the trees. I have lots of different ideas, but how do I access all this? And I said that that's how I daven. I don't focus necessarily on every phrase, but I don't know if you remember those little picture books where every single page was a slightly different picture. And when you flipped them, it gave the illusion of like movement. That's basically what a camera is. Right? There's a whole bunch of little frames, and when they all go together at the same time, it creates the illusion that you're seeing the scene, and that's it. That's, by the way, what the original Nickelodeons were, is they were just a whole series of pictures, one after another, and you would turn the lever, and you would crank it up, and as it would go, you would get to watch, so to speak, the movie, as the pictures are flashing by. That's all that a camera is today. It's a collection of images that take place fast enough that it creates the illusion that you're actually seeing the movement taking place. So I said that's more or less what I do. I have a little picture book in my head, and I try to access things. So that's what I did in my shir over there. If you're in the Tefillah shir and you're watching this will be a little review for you. And for those of you who are thinking of joining the Tefillah shir, if you find this worthwhile, then maybe you might think about enhancing your tefillah in other ways as well. So let's jump in. The first bracha is the ikar, and therefore I have more images when it comes to this. I put more focus on this one. Yeah. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu. You are our God first and foremost, and the God of my fathers. So first, I think of my personal relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then I think of the fact that I have a Masorah from my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, etc. And then there are the Avos themselves. Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Me, I picture them on Har Moriah, because that's the, when davening, of course, we're supposed to be mechavein to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? That's what the kavanah means. We don't just face the Har Bayis, we face the Kodesh Kadoshim. And that's why when you're davening at the Koisel, right, you're supposed to move a little, or at least move a little bit to the left. But it's not just physical, it's also in your head that you should be focused on the Kodesh Kadoshim. So I picture the Akedah, Avraham and Yitzchak up on Har Moriah, and Avraham, bringing his son, the person of Chesed, and Yitzchak, the person of Gvura. And Elokei Yaakov, I picture the ladder with the Malachim going up. Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora. Kel is the power. Gadol, I just picture Hashem as everything. All this giant white screen. Yeah. Gibor is Tzimtzum. He pulls himself back to allow the world to exist. And I picture this tiny little black dot. V'Hanoira, and then he goes and fills in that black dot. See it as a little gray, the black and the white together. Yeah, Kel Elyon. Forget everything I just said. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above everything else. Gadol Gibor V'Hanora is just for us to try to understand it on our level, but Kel Elyon, he's way above all that. Gomel Chasodim Tovim, and at this point, as I've mentioned, I think of something good that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done for me. The Konei Hakol, and I know that he's the master of everything, and every good comes from him. V'zocher Chazdei Avos, and I think of all of the good things that people have done, all of the chasadim and great things that Klal Yisrael have done. Umevi go'el livnei v'neihem l'man shemo b'yahava, and he will bring a redeemer to his children's children. If I'm davening in shul, I stop and look around. That's us. Yeah, he'll bring a goyel Mashiach to his children's children. That's all of us sitting here. Yeah. L'ma'an shemo b'yahava, for his sake, not for me. B'yahava, out of love. Let him come nicely. Melech, he's my king. Ozer, he helps me. No, not just in a general way of running the government, but he actually helps me. Moshiach, he will pull me out of situations. Not just that he's going to help me, he's going to save me. Umargain, and he will even protect me against my own bad judgments. Baruch atah Hashem, again, Avraham, you're the shield of Avraham. So like I say, that's what I do. And I do all of this sort of like pictures in my head just to move through that bracha. The second bracha, right, is I'm thinking about a Kodesh Baruch Hu's unbelievable power, ad kedei kach, that he's going to resurrect all of the dead. That's how powerful Kodesh Baruch Hu is. He's going to change everything in the world. Ator Kadosh v'Shemcha Kadosh, which is the third bracha, means you are holy in your essence, but your name is holy. Meaning, I can't understand your essence, but I can understand how you manifest yourself in this world. That's what the Shem Hashem is. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is how we understand Hashem, but Hashem's essence is much greater than that. Yeah? You are holy in your essence, and your name is holy, which means the way you are in this world, and Kedoshim and the holy ones bless you. There's two pshatim here. It's either talking about the angels or it's talking about the tzaddikim. I usually think about the tzaddikim because it's hard for me to relate to angels. And the tzaddikim, are manifesting that kedusha, that holiness in this world. Yeah. I think about the fact that I need HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give me insight into Torah, right? Torah is a gift, matan Torah. It's a matana. Yeah, I have to put in the effort, but if HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't open up my eyes, it doesn't help, right? You give people understanding. Tshuva, I think about the fact that I need to do tshuva. I need HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help for me to change, and I know that I need forgiveness. Slach lanu avinu. Bring me forgiveness for the things that I've done in this world. I would like to feel worse about them. That's why tshuva comes before slicha. But in the meantime, I'm carrying all the guilt and all the difficulty of an entire lifetime, and the only one who can forgive me is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Re'einu ba'anyenu geula, personal geula now. We're not talking about Klal Yisrael's geula. Me, I need salvation. I need to be saved. Yeah. Rifa'enu. And here I usually think of people that I know who are sick, who need a refuah. Hashem, you can heal all of the sick. And if I don't have somebody particular in mind, I just picture everybody in the hospital getting up and walking out. That's the little image I get. B'rei Choleinu, same thing over here, as I think about people who need a parnasa, and I try to think Kadosh Baruch Hu can provide their parnasa. And if not, then I just think about Klal Yisrael bringing in all of their, their crops and their things and having a tremendous success. That's what I think about that, right? Short. Next is Tekabah Shofar Gadol. And here I picture someone actually picking up that giant shofar and blowing it for Mashiach to come. And I, V'san Neis L'Kabez Glu Yasenu, and a big banner. And I picture, again, a giant, flagpole with the Torah itself unfurled and all of Klal Yisrael coming back to Israel. Hashiv Shavteinu Gvar Shona, and this is a tefillah for justice. I have suffered injustice in my life. I think most people have. And when we think to ourselves, wouldn't that be great if we had real Dayanim and a Sanhedrin, and you knew there would be real justice in the world again, and all of the evil that's taking place in that sense would be removed. I try not to think of particular people, but I think about the people who are stopping HaKadosh Baruch Hu from being in the world, who are fighting against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't think of people per se. I try not to. Sometimes certain people pop up in my head, but I really try not to. But I'll think about how they were trying to make a minyan in the Midrachov in Tel Aviv, and these people came and ripped down the mechitza and stopped them from davening, things like that, where you just see people trying to stop Torah, So Hashem, stop the people who are trying to stop Torah. And then the flip side, al tzadikim ve'al chasidim, right? I think of tzadikim and chasidim and gerei tzedek and these people who are the good people in the world. And I have certain people I think about. Go for your own people, please. And that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help them to be able to bring the goodness to the world. And here I picture the Yerushalayim Shel Mala coming down, and Yerushalayim being once again the most beautiful city on the face of the world, and just picturing what Yerushalayim could be, right? Es Tzemach Dovid, here's a chance for us to think about Mashiach. Mashiach will actually be coming. He will reestablish his kingdom, and the world will be back to its completion. Like I say, I just come up with a little mental image. Shema Koleinu, this is where it's just me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I said, okay, Hashem, I've just finished davening, and between me and you, this wasn't the greatest tefillah there ever was. But, accept it anyway. Because, hey, I'm here. I'm trying. You know what's in my heart. And you can take these tefillahs and make them into something that were much more meaningful. Ritzei, And here I actually, again, think about me, what being a Kohen and all, bringing korbanos in the Beis HaMikdash. Yeah, I don't know if I'll actually be doing the avoda, but I do picture myself with the clothes. Probably I'll be in public relations, giving tours, but I picture myself in the Beis HaMikdash with the Beis HaMikdash and doing the avoda. That's what I picture I would say. Modim, all the way through. I've talked about this. I've given a whole shir on Modim, that there's two themes in Modim, lahodos ulahalel, to praise and to give thanks, or I should say to praise and give thanks, right? So one is b'derech hateva, in the normal functioning of the world, we thank Hashem, and then there's the miracles that take place, and it keeps switching back and forth. If you follow it through, we gave a whole shir on this once. I'm sure you can find it if you go into the archives. And that's what I think of by Modim. As I'm saying it, I go back and forth with lahodos ulahalel. And Sim Shalom, that's a really easy one. You just picture in your mind peace, peace in our families, peace in our communities, peace in Klal Yisrael, peace in the world. Yeah, and that's not too hard to imagine what it would be like if there was a world of peace. Yeah, that's more or less my quick image that I try to go through with the Shmoneh Esrei. And that's it for now. In the meantime, if you want to find out more about the Rabbi Orlofsky community and experience, you can go to my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com, where we have other articles and links to shiurim. You can sign up for one of our online shiurim, the Tefillah shir, the Mesilas Yesharim shir for ladies, and the Daf Yomi for men. And I have, we're hopefully going to be starting the question and answer one. So hopefully soon enough, there'll be a little link there where you could sign up for that if you're interested in the question and answer share that we're going to do. And you can leave a comment, you can sponsor an episode, sponsor a question and answer, sponsor Parsha and 5. And that's it for now. So until next time, this is David Orlofsky, and this has been the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.